chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
All right, good day, everyone, and welcome to College Volleyball Weekly Week 6 recap, Week 7 preview, episode 252. We've got Theo Edwards of CSUN, Jay Hossack of George Mason, Dan Friend of Lewis, and Brad Rostrader of UC San Diego, and I am Rob Espero. And as you came in hot there, they're going to be fighting for the Player of the Week. They're going to try and insert it somewhere into discussions, so this will be interesting to hear. But before we get into the normal banter and semi-analysis and chirping and so forth of the show, let's talk about some of the recent news. The men's game is using yet another coach, a head coach. That'd be Matt Worley, heading from Grand Canyon over to Kansas to the dark side of the force. Just kidding, women. He's going to the women's side, and for great reasons. We always support guys making their situations better, and that's what Matt's doing. But I'm going to let these guys talk about Matt and this move, and because he's their second from our show, Dave Hunt. Who? No, which is his birthday this last week, by the way. Happy birthday, Dave Hunt. But let's start with you, Brad, on Matt.
Yeah, I think ultimately two things. One, I'm a little bummed because we're going out to Grand Canyon, and he's just a great person and a great human, and like everyone else, we enjoy getting to compete against these people we really enjoy. Not that Brian and John, who are going to be taking over in the meantime, obviously are some great people as well, but definitely a little bit of a bummer when it's going to be someone you care, and that isn't going to be competing against you anymore. Won't be on the recruiting trail at the same tournaments we're going to be at. But I think on the positive side is makes a lot of sense for him and his family, and I think ultimately that's what all of us as coaches are always aware of is you got to look out for your family and you got to look out for your career and your future. And I think there's a lot of things within the Kansas athletic department that really set Matt and his family and that KU women's volleyball program up for a lot of success down the road. So ultimately really happy for him, really excited for him, and excited to see the impact he has on Kansas volleyball, as he's obviously left a massive impact on Grand Canyon.
Well, how about this? How about equity and pay on the men's side? Could be a good thing to keep coaches, but I'm not going to comment any more than I'm going to go to a former MIVA colleague of Matt's, Dan Friend, because Matt was the best looking coach in the MIVA, and he left. That made Dan the best looking coach in the MIVA.
That's actually I would actually shut you off the air right now if I could, because that's a false statement by you. So anyway,
Nikki's had that title for quite a long time, actually.
Well,
so
we all know it's Shane Davis. He was Mr. Iowa back in the day. Come on now.
All right. Well, as I love you guys all, I think it's a great move for Matt. Timing's never easy on any of those situations. As I said to you guys, I'm a KU grad, so I'm excited about Omer and the rest of the staff there that got hired. And so I think it's fantastic. They're going to do some great things. Beret Bouchard is a phenomenal coach as well, and he was who was there beforehand. But you look on the women's side, I mean, you had, Cook, Mary Wise, Ray Bouchard, three coaches that have put, 30, 40 years in coaching volleyball at the women's side. Yeah. Some seismic shifts at programs there. And honestly, I think three great hires from those programs. I don't know where Florida's at quite yet. I was hoping Booz was going to get the job. Do you know what I mean? But I think, again, best of luck to Matt. He did a lot of great things, not only as a player, but as a coach, and the best of luck. And who knows, maybe it'll be like Shane and we see him back on the men's side somewhere down the road. So,
all right, let's go over to Jay, because I know that Jay spent a ton of time with him as well.
Well, listen, we all echo the statement that Matt was a great coach and a really great fit for Grand Canyon, and obviously took them to new heights and turned that program into a powerhouse. And, kudos to Grand Canyon for making that hire, and to Matt and his staffs over the years for, taking it there. I think it's no surprise the finances of the women's side obviously are driving force for a lot of coaches, especially coaches with kids and families. And, Worley has a couple of his own. And obviously, Grand Canyon being what it is, it's not exactly, spending a ton of money on salaries for men's volleyball. But, he made a decision that was best for his family and probably pretty good for his future in terms of being able to bounce and make even more money in the future. And, you can't fault somebody for that. Sometimes decisions are ones that we want to make, and sometimes they're decisions we're forced to make. And this is one that I think he sat down with his wife and said, "Hey, what do you think? And, can we make this work? And is it the right move?" And she was 100% on board. Let's give kudos where it's really due, and that's to the significant others of coaches when they bounce to new places. I got to give mad props to my wife and all the guys on here and their wives and all the coaches around the country. When you're first starting out, it's tough because you bounce around a lot, but occasionally you get your roots planted and then you pick up and move somewhere else. And for families to be able to do that, it's not easy. So I'm giving all the wives out there a little love. Thank you for letting us do what we do, and allowing us to follow our passion and being able to keep it going in the future. So
Jay's likability rating just went up 200-fold right there. So
I'll get hate mail from somebody. I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to throw something at me. I know it.
let's go to Theo.
Yeah, Matt and I have been talking quite a bit the past couple of weeks, and similar to Brad, we actually play them next week as well. And so I was a little bit bummed that we didn't get to go head to head. And Matt's done such a tremendous job at GCU, and I echo all the things that these guys have already said. I think for Kansas, it's a fantastic hire. He's going to be their offensive coordinator, and if anybody watched GCU over the past few years, that team knew how to do offense and do it well. So I think they're going to be in great shape. I think, kind of going back to what Rob was talking about, the unfortunate piece and specifically in men's volleyball is that GCU is losing a really great coach. Someone who's I think was a fantastic fit for it and obviously did a tremendous job. But you look at the landscape, it's not often that a guy who takes his team to the Final Four ends up leaving shortly after, when you really was probably at the peak of what he had done there. And normally you'd love to see a university at that point get behind him and make him feel empowered. And I don't want to say anything more than what makes sense, because I don't know the entirety of the situation. But I do think that Matt loved his team, and I think he loved being there, and he loved what he was doing. And finances were more important. And at the end of the day, the women's side of the resources have been a little bit more lucrative. And so this makes a lot of sense for Matt and his family. So it's a little bit of a bummer, I think, on that side of things, but at the same time, a great move for Kansas and a great move for Matt and his family.
Yeah, good call. I was looking at a stats graph that someone had posted when Worley jumped on board at Grand Canyon. That program exponentially skyrocketed to one of the top programs in a short amount of time. So it's a great loss for Grand Canyon, but I know the staff that's remaining there will try to continue that tradition, and it's just a great move. And sad to see him go, because I know that if we could do an After Dark series of College Volleyball Weekly and you guys' connection to Matt Worley, that would be one hilarious episode, I think. So,
well, if we do what everybody on Volley Talk wants us to do, we would be ripping shots all day long. And whenever Dan says his phrase or whenever everybody else does their phrase, it'd be one heck of an after hours party. That's for sure.
I got a couple catchphrases. You know what I mean? So I'll see if I can saying that for you guys. So they were blowing me up for like 2 strains there. I was like, wow, guys.
Or this episode is brought to you by.
You literally, after the episode where I was like talking about negativity, where it's like, hey, can't we just all like each other and everything and all that? That's like,
let's jump on forward to our next segment, the elephants in the room, which focuses on what these guys have done this last week, or these guys' teams have done this last week, so we can highlight their programs. But I have to preempt that with there were 6 upsets this last week, and unfortunately, a few of us were affected on screen. So we're just going to go through in that order, and they can talk about what happened here, and we'll go the exact data that we saw in analytics and stats. So let's start. We'll go eastward first. Jay and his George Mason Patriots. Talk about your week.
Well, I wouldn't call it an upset. NJIT is a pretty good program. We started off EIVA play, NJIT, and we felt pretty good about the game plan going in, and we win the first set after being down, I think 0-6 or 6-2 or whatever in the first, and came back and won that set and felt pretty good about our performance. And then we go up 23-20 in the second and could not put a ball away when it mattered most to go up 2-0, and then handle the third pretty handily. And then we go into the fourth and they get us. And, in the fifth, we were down 10-3 at one point. And our guys, there was some moments where my staff was thinking, hey, we should make some subs. We should make some subs. And I thought, I want them to figure out a way to get out of these things in the future and learn something from this. And we only lost 15-12. So I got to give my boys some credit. They fought pretty tough to get back to a point where there was potential for a comeback here. But I think for our team, we're still figuring some things out. We still got some lineups that we're working around and trying to get the best thing that we can. And, that was a hard fought match by NJIT. It was a really, really, gutsy performance by them. And I got to give them some credit for that. The next night we went to play Fairleigh Dickinson, who is coached by Carl France. And, they're in the NEC and they're a decent program. In years past, they've been building some things. And this year, arguably they had a couple of guys out that were some big players for them. And, we scrapped, literally scrapped. They out hit us. They outdug us. And we came away with that match winning in 4. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've seen a team this year yet. And please, props to the 2 guys on the screen that I've seen already, but I haven't seen a team yet that is this scrappy in terms of defense. I know when Theo was at our house, we talked about St. Thomas Aquinas. They dug a lot of balls and shot a lot of balls back over on our side. This team was twice as dedicated to their defense. There were moments where I'm thinking, man, what do we got to do to put a ball down? But, kudos to my team for finding a way to win, even when the stats were not in their favor. And kudos to Carl. He's putting together a good program, and, that they're going to be a handful moving on down the line. So that's what happened to us. It's not the be all end all of our existence, but this year's wide open in the IBA, as everybody's seen already with the results of Harvard and Penn State the first night, and every match is going to count. So it could come back to sting us later on down the line if we're not careful.
Yeah, good point, Jake. As someone, a person who's covering men's volleyball, a new resource, had asked, so what would your poll look like, Rob? I'm like, well, number 1 is Long Beach State. Number 2 is everyone else. So that's what I'm going with for now.
I'm gonna give George Mason and Jay a lot of credit. And for those that don't understand the coaching side of this, early on in this season, they went out west and played on the road, had a really, really tough time, right? This is a young team, not very experienced, doesn't know how to play away from home. They come back home, and if you want to know how they play at home, that team was on a 15-game win streak and was playing some really, really great ball. And we obviously go over there, and they played incredibly well. And now, to me, this past week is now their turn back on the road, right? And another opportunity to kind of learn some things. And this was a much, much better version of the first time they were out west. And so, to me, when you look at that Patriots team, the growth and the progression of what they're doing and where they're headed is in the right direction. And so, to give Jay some credit, I think they're doing some nice things.
Thanks, Theo. Checks in the mail. Appreciate it. I recorded that, by the way. I'm going to send it to my AD. Just
anytime. Yeah, I got you.
Not that Dan or Brad have to say anything positive about your Mason team, Jay, but do you guys have anything else to add there? All good?
No,
We can move on.
I think we're going to keep talking about like a lot of parity and a lot of good teams, and I think they're just getting better. Somebody made a reference, lovely volley talk, that everybody else in the country is playing high school games, and the top 2 or 3 teams are playing college games. And I just laugh. I think you're so far removed from watching the game and understanding it. Do you know what I mean? I think there's some pretty talented kids out there on some teams, and some really good coaches that continue to get better and better and do some stuff. And so, yeah.
Yep. Well, Dan, let's go to you and your Lewis Flyers. Talk about your week. Started off opening MIVA play, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had Lindenwood and McKendree, and both really good teams, and both have been battle tested. And I thought with Lindenwood, we were able to secure a win in 4. Those guys came alive, certainly in games 3 and 4 against us, and it was a battle back and forth. Then we got into McKendree, and McKendree had really, if you'd watched the Loyola McKendree, they got to 15 early in the first 2 games, and then we're up in game 3 and just didn't quite finish it. And I think they were ready to go against us and played phenomenal. Hit like 600 in game one. We couldn't slow them down, and we finally started to settle in a little bit. We were able to squeak out game three and back and forth in game four, but they got us on a trickle ace, hit the net and trickled over to finish. That was a tough one. So, but kudos to Nikki and her group. I mean, she had, Sam had 23 kills. Kevin Shuley, who's a phenomenal, he was an All-American. He had 17 kills, and Flaherty ran a really good offense. But good group. I mean, and tough loss for us, but we'll bounce back and get back after it. And we still had a couple guys. I mean, Max and OG still both had 21 kills for us. And so just inopportune errors. Coaches know that. Like if you're making a couple errors towards the end of deuce games, you want to be aggressive but clean. And so.
Yep. Anyone on the panel want to comment on the Flyers?
Yeah, I watched this match. I thought both teams played incredibly well, and to Dan's point, both of his big guns, OG and Max, both those guys almost hit 400. One hit 400, the other was like 389 or something. I mean, they played really, really well, and it was just some inopportune errors right at the end. And I thought for sure it was going 5, Dan. You guys had a couple of serves for set point, and I thought for sure that you guys were going to turn it, and ended up just having some uncharacteristic errors that they really haven't had much of this year. And I tip your hat to McKendry. I thought they took advantage and they played incredibly well. So
good.
Yeah, with McKendry, I think Yadiel Diaz is been going under the radar. They obviously, this was kind of one of their first bigger wins, but he's a top-notch libero, and he's passing really, really well. And then I think Nate Flater, their setter, is he's still young. He's a sophomore playing right now, but I think he's gonna, over his last 2 years, he's gonna be someone we're talking about quite a bit on the show.
Yep. Anything else on the Flyers? As we move on, Brad Rostratter and his Tritons of UC San Diego surviving some chaos in Costa Mesa. Talk about it.
Yeah, we had our week. We had Lincoln Memorial coming out here, and we played pretty well against them. They have a very middle-heavy offense, so it was good for us because a lot of the teams we've been seeing and a lot of the teams we will see are going to be a lot more pin dominant. So getting to see teams that can really be good out of the middle of the court was a good, unique challenge for us. And then we went up to Costa Mesa to Vanguard, and my first time being back on campus since leaving 3 years ago now. And really cool to see the new arena, the new gym, the Freed Center that they have out there. Just a beautiful arena. Still, like, you walk in, it still smells like fresh paint. So awesome to see the new construction. And we played really good in those first 2 sets, and then moved some pieces around, and they started getting some momentum. They snuck out of that 3rd set, and then, like we all know, your team gets momentum, and it's really tough to get it back or slow them down. So we were in a really tight 4th set where we had some set points, they had some set points, and then came down to the 5th set, and just a really competitive, really fun environment, and was really stoked to see some new guys and some different guys kind of step up in some big moments for us.
Yep. Anyone on the Tritons on the panel?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jay.
I was out quickly. The Big West. I know everybody's looking at Long Beach and UC Irvine and Hawaii. Do not count out Northridge or San Diego or Santa Barbara. I'm just saying, down the line, tournament time happening, there could be a couple of matches that maybe don't go the way people think they will. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there right now.
All right. Deal.
Yeah. I mean, just watching that match between Vanguard and San Diego, Grant Dvorak, man.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's serve is absolutely legit. And don't forget, like, they're 2 brothers, right? So obviously Brad has his brother, on his roster. And so there's definitely going to be a little bit of some nerves, a little bit of some, hey, I really want to win this one, and be able to bring that back to Thanksgiving dinner when we get a chance to talk about it. So, yeah, Grant served incredibly well. And honestly, I felt like San Diego was pulling away every single time. And then Grant would go back to serve, and it was like, oh, well, we got ourselves a ball game now again. So really, really, I think Vanguard's a good team. They have a couple of guys who serve really well. And, yeah, kind of to Brad's point, I think if he leaves his starters in, and people don't really understand this, but there aren't a lot of opportunities in the year to mix and match rosters or specifically lineups, and to play a lot of different guys, and really from the standpoint of, hey, you're winning and it's going to be easy and we're going to go ahead and make some changes, because oftentimes it takes some time to find the groove with a new group. And if you watch men's volleyball, they're all standing the whole game, and to stand for 2 sets and then you eventually get in there, sometimes it can be a little bit tough to find your groove. And I tip my hat to Brad to have confidence in his guys to get after it, and some of his backup guys got in there and played well and survived it. That's what it's all about. Sometimes it's not always about playing great, it's about surviving it and finding a way to win.
Yep. Anything else? We good to move on to the mighty Theophytes, otherwise known as the CSUN Matadors. Let's go for it, Theo.
Sure. Yeah, we had a good week. We started off against Dominican from New York, and we played okay, and kind of were dealing with some aches and some injuries, and had an opportunity to kind of get a bunch of guys in and not put too much of a load on our first group. And then the next night we went down to Malibu and played an incredibly tough and well coached Pepperdine team, and was super proud of our guys. I think we've been really struggling to find a lot of consistency, just day in and day out. And I think our team is really talented, and we have a lot of guys who are new to the program and have kind of been finding their way. And it felt like that match against Pepperdine, we kind of put some things together, and specifically it was probably one of our better serving matches of the year. We put a lot of pressure on Pepperdine, and the guys were able to really execute some blocking schemes and some systems that we had in place for them, and able to slow them down quite a bit, and just capitalize in areas where you really need to in order to win matches. And so, I was really proud of our guys. I think, Rob, you had mentioned it. Jalen hit his 500th career kill in that match, and as a sophomore, he's been really, really special for us, and we're excited for what he brings to the future.
I actually go online and say, he's successful because Donovan Constable's a beast, and Constable gives me a shaka back. So, but you also had your first win in Malibu, and I didn't know that you guys hadn't won since 2011. That's a long drought there, Theo. You're changing history.
It's a tough place to win, and thank God they changed those lights, because I think it was even tougher when they had those big cylinders in the ceiling, and anything that went up there got us in trouble. So it was a good win.
Excellent stuff. I'm just going to touch on you. Actually, you guys want to talk about anything on CSUN side?
I'm going to just start out by saying this is the kind of win that makes a program turn a corner, and Theo has arguably been building and building and building since he took over. And he's had a couple of good wins over the years. By no means is it like all of a sudden this is his first big one. But for a program to win a match in a place where historically they've struggled and not done very well in a year at a time in this year where it's early, this could be the kind of match that propels them to that next level and brings CSUN back on the map as a perennial powerhouse, rather than a program that somewhere falls behind, the top dogs in that conference. I'm telling you, the Big West, I know Long Beach and UC Irvine and Hawaii are good programs, and everybody kind of slept on the rest of the teams. I wouldn't sleep on Northridge. Do not underestimate that team. Donovan Constable is, in my eyes, one of the best setters in the country because of his competitive nature. It's not that he's a 6'9" giant blocker. It's not because he has a 78-mile-an-hour serve. It's the way he distributes the rock and the way that he generals on that court and runs his offense and keeps his guys mellow when they get a little out of sorts, and picks them up when they look a little flat. And he's just a flat out competitor. He's a lot of fun to watch. So Northridge is a team that they're a dark horse right now. They're a dark horse, but I don't suspect it's going to be like that for long.
Anyone else?
For me, the progression of Jalen Phillips, obviously as an attacker, he was pretty darn good last year anyways, but specifically him as a server. I think last night in Malibu, he had 3, maybe 4 aces. I forget. I just lost the numbers, but
he had 4.
4 aces, yeah. So his progression from the end line is really big, and especially as an opposite, being able to score some points back there, where last year his serve was a bit of a weakness. And I think you even had the serving sub, who's now playing on the left for you, Bertozzi, come in and serve for him at the end of sets. So that progression, that development's huge for a player who can score points like that from the end line. And then on the Pepperdine side, I think Ryan Barnett has been a sleeper in terms of making some really good plays and seeing a high volume of attempts for them and being really terminal as an attacker. So I think on the pin, he's been a really cool surprise seeing him grow and develop over the years there at Pepperdine, to pair with Cole Hartke, who's a pretty good freshman player that we're going to see plenty of over the years.
Yeah, I didn't mention enough of that. Cole Hartke is the real deal, for those that don't know. And he, as a freshman, I don't know that we've seen a freshman his size in a really, really long time. But man, is he incredibly consistent. And during the big moments, he's still just as good. And it's pretty impressive to watch that guy play.
Well, he's been the talk. He's been the constant stat line deliverer for every match for the Waves. But I wanted to point something out. If you look at aces per set in the nation this year, you've got your Moni Nikolov and Ilya Hano, and then you throw in Max Grigoriev. But who sits in at number 4? None other than the main brother, Donovan Constable. Out of nowhere. So he scored points for you.
He was a damn good server last year.
Yeah, not out of nowhere at all.
He was a good server last year, but he's really found his tune this year and really has some different speeds and some different things that he can throw from back there. So he's progressing for sure.
Yep. Dan, did you have something? Or are you muted?
All right. My compliments to just Theo and Brad. I think, and Jay kind of said it. Me and Jay have been doing this for a couple of years. I think they've taken their programs and continue to build and establish. And I think, like a win like Pepperdine for Theo at Pepperdine is a notch in his belt that continues to grow the direction that he wants to go. And I think it's fantastic. And then on top of that, just the at-large is coming out of the Big West. Both of them are. I just think that's where it's coming from. And the conference, as it gets going, is going to get grindy for sure.
Yeah.
I think we learned a little bit more about that at-large after this week, too.
Yes, we did. Well, let's go into the remaining top matches. Well, actually, there are a few more. The remaining undefeateds, and we're going to start with Loyola out of the MIVA. Amazing start at 10-0. They're 2-0 in conference. They took down Ohio State 3-1 in Columbus. Let's start with Dan. What is Loyola doing well since they're right in your neighborhood?
BVB. I mean, like those tough turnaround. Those guys, like I said, they beat McKendree on some deuce games and had to get on a bus to go to Ohio State because our schedule's unbalanced as far as I'm concerned, and play at Ohio State on Saturday. So kudos to those guys about taking that road trip, getting there, and ultimately playing in a different size gym than their own gym. And then, I think, Parker Van Buren's pretty special. Ryan McGilliott's running the show. They've got some really good pieces and found a really good groove this year with the group that's playing for them. And I have to say, right now, they would be the favorite to win conference. There's a lot of games left to be played, and conference is competitive. But if you look at it right now and the way they're playing, then we talk about this, and we all know this is sustainability. You know what I mean? Can you keep the sustainability throughout the season? Because it gets grindy.
Yeah. Let's go to anyone on the panel who wants to talk about Loyola.
I think one thing under the radar, they did that this week too with one of their third middle coming in for Brad Bell, who was out, and having Aiden Klein, who's a younger middle, really performing and really doing some good things. But again, I mentioned a little bit after the week they had out here with Pepperdine and playing us and winning both in 5 is they are not making attacking errors. They are doing a great job of just forcing the opponents to have to serve in and beat them. And they're just siding out really well because of not making those attacking errors. And I just think that continues to be a huge strength. And even over their last 2 matches, they had 11 attacking errors against Ohio State and McKendree. And I think that goes a really long way. To be able to do that over time speaks to their ability to pass, their ability to set, and then obviously their attackers, which is predominantly Parker Van Buren and Fabakovic getting a lot of those attempts. But to sustain that over long periods of time really adds up into putting stress on your opponents. So I just think their offense is doing a really good job.
Jay or Theo, anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, these guys kind of hit it all, but I'm going to throw out a couple of stats that I think are just absolutely mind-blowing. Parker Van Buren against McKendree, 18 kills, hit 548. Then goes to Ohio State, has 20 kills, hits 576. Those are great numbers for a middle blocker, let alone somebody who's your outlet, out of system, big bomber on the right. He is, I mean, Dan said it. This dude is special. And when you have those kind of numbers and getting the majority of the touches, it's really tough to stop a team like that.
Opposites have 3 jobs: block the snot out of the ball, serve the snot out of the ball, hit the snot out of the ball. We don't pay them to tip and roll shot, and we sure as heck don't pay them to put easy jump float serves in that, don't cross the net very fast. He is the real deal. He is part of the future of the opposites for the U.S. national team. And he's a good kid. I mean, those are all great qualities. He's a heck of a competitor. So kudos to that guy for playing so well.
What's crazy in our whole conversation there, 1 or 2 points behind him in each match, Daniel Fabakovic. You didn't even mention him. And let's say you even contain PVB. You got to deal with Fabakovic, and then you contain them both. Jake Reed's really been stepping up as of late. So Loyola, as Dan said, is a conference favorite so far, and they're looking really good. So with that, let us move on to the 9-0 USC Trojans. They're 9-0 for the first time under the Jeff Nygaard era. The record, I had to look this up, 28-0 was their start under Jim McLaughlin, 1991. Dang, that was a long time ago. And the last time they're 18-0 was 2012 under Bill Ferguson, current Catawba coach. So let's have you guys chat about the Trojans. We'll start west this time. We'll start with Brad.
Yeah, I think they played Princeton, Northridge, Ohio State, Penn State, and really were pretty smooth in a lot of those games. I know that Northridge match was pretty close, but pretty smooth, handling everything. And I'm really intrigued to see this weekend. I think that really we're going to learn a lot more about, are they in that top group of teams, or are they kind of back in, not necessarily the middle of the pack, because they're still pretty darn good, but are they in that 4 through 10 range? And I think this is really where we're going to find out when they go up against a really established team that's played a lot of tough teams already in UC Irvine this weekend.
Yeah. Let's go to Theo, the other West Coaster.
Yeah, I mean, haven't seen them, in person. I mean, they're a great team, and I think one of the biggest changes for them, obviously, Caleb Blanchette is doing a fantastic job this season, and he does a great job of keeping the middles involved even when they're out of system and the ball's off the net, which I think for any coach and setter, they know that that's a really, really tough thing to do and to do it well. But he's got the guys to do it with, and Parker and their middle blockers are big. They're physical. I think they're leading the country from a blocking perspective. And so they do a great job at the net, and they're super physical, but also just the balance, right? The Dylan Klein in the past has had to carry so much of the load, and the ability to get Noah Roberts and to find a little bit of balance for him has allowed him to be even better. I think against Penn State, he hit 565. Dylan did, with 14 kills, and I think so much of that is just the fact that everyone's got to pay attention to the rest of their squad, and the way that Caleb keeps the middles involved from 10 feet off the net, it keeps those middles at home, and Dylan loves to come in and hit that cross court shot, and is super, super effective there. So I think they're the real deal. Their serving hasn't been up there with what I would say is the best in the country, but they do a good job, and it's definitely good enough to cause some problems and to give them some opportunities from a blocking perspective. So yeah, I think with Brad, it'd be interesting to see how this week goes, and specifically to see kind of how this shapes up, and are they in that top 4 group? Do they belong in that top 4 group? They're darn close, that's for sure.
All right, let's go over to Dan on the Trojans.
Not a ton to add. I'm just excited to see them play Irvine coming in this next week, and it's going to be a great match with 2 really good teams, and Nygaard's got a really good group, and they're playing at a high level.
We'll close out with Jay.
Jeff said it. We talked about it last week. Team culture, completely different than it's been in recent history, and that can make all the difference. So kudos to Jeff and his staff, and to the guys at USC. You guys are making some waves. No pun intended with Pepperdine. So I'm excited to see where they go.
Well, as you guys know, I had Jeff Nygaard on episode 251. Actually, no, that was in the last 2 episodes, and he did allude to the culture, and it's a really good culture that's really beginning to form in the USC locker room. And he said even off the court, these guys like to hang out, and it's showing. They actually have a relationship, and they're enjoying this season of life and this particular season. Caleb Blanchette, smooth operator running it, but when you got a 7-foot middle in the name of Parker Tompkinson, he makes things a lot easier, and an experienced graduate middle in Guy Jennis, which they get overlooked because they got so much power at the pins. Can't sleep on that middle, and that is going to be a scary thing, which Theo's already faced, but we'll be seeing this Wednesday. Actually, I will be, because we go into UC Irvine at 8-0, second to the last of the remaining teams. We'll go to Jay, since he was the last one on the last team.
Who are we talking about right now?
UC Irvine, 8-0. After their win at your alma mater for your professional degree, CUI.
Gotta give Cypher, hey, you took one off him and you made it interesting. I think the thing about Irvine is, can they, when it gets further down the line, can they maintain? Do they have the depth to maybe give these guys a little bit of a break later on down the line? I don't know the answer to that. I do know that their starting group, though, is pretty darn good, but this weekend this week's going to be the real test, right? You got 2 high quality teams. NIF has got a great assistant coach in the name of Ron Larson. And if you don't know who Ron is, he is an absolute wizard when it comes to drill creation and stats and just, overall coaching in general. So, putting a little pressure on Ronnie out there. But listen, it's going to be fun to watch. I will be, with bated breath watching on Wednesday, because I want to watch and see what these teams do. But it's no surprise. You've got good pieces, and little Joe Carlos, dishing a rock out to the right people at the right time. It's going to be fun.
Well, I just want to add on the Joe Carlos piggyback, 3rd double-double of the season. He's been phenomenal offensively. We've known that, but defensively, he's been getting some good reads and stepping into some bombs and getting some good pickups. So let's jump over to Dan on UC Irvine.
They played twice, right? Is it home and away on this series?
Yeah, Wednesday and Saturday.
Wednesday and Saturday. So
yep.
Yeah. So I think it's not much different. I mean, we've talked about their pieces and how talented they are, and so again, just excited to see SC and Irvine battle it out, and see if Rob comes out victorious or not. So
let's go over to Theo.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about them earlier in the year. One of the things that I think's been kind of impressive to watch is it Aiken, the libero?
Yeah, Shane Aiken. Yes.
Yeah, Aiken. Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, and specifically in serve receive, his ability to pass the ball and keep those guys in system. I think in that last match against Concordia, the passing wasn't great from the 2 outsides, but I felt like the libero did a really, really great job. And I think the biggest difference maker for this team in general has been the addition of Goss in the middle, and really just having Flexen on the right and no longer passing. So many of his insecurities came from his ball control, and to me, he just looks so much more confident and so much more capable on the right. And yeah, I mean, this team is really, really good, and for sure we're going to see them make it a pretty far distance down the stretch, and they're going to be an absolute handful in the Big West. So looking forward to playing.
And close out with Brad.
Yeah, I mean, these guys could hit a lot of it, but I think really it's looking at the passers that aren't named Heno, and what Aiken and Ennis are able to do as the season progresses on. And I think especially Ennis being a freshman and seeing if he's able to manage that load as teams, as they probably already have, but as they continue to put more and more balls on him and serve receive, if he's able to manage that and fight those off where, it doesn't have to be perfect, especially with Flexen and Heno around him. So it's just, can you fight those off, keep him around medium so that Joe can go do what he does and set and run a great offense.
Yeah. Let's move on over to Long Beach State, the last of the undefeateds. They're 9-0 after the win over number 3 UCLA. I want to throw this out there because I couldn't remember a time when the setter has led in points offensively for any team, which Moni Nikolov has done not only against UCLA, but against Pepperdine in the previous week. But he had 13 points against UCLA and was the second leading scorer in that match. 23 against Pepperdine in the previous week, and he was the leading scorer in that match. So, but with that, I'm going to let Theo start with the beach.
Yeah, I mean, us coaches, we talk quite a bit, and this past summer/fall, we did a lot of recruiting, and we were on the trail and talking quite a bit about Moni Nikolov and what this guy was going to mean to men's volleyball and what he was going to mean to the league and how good is he. There are very few questions left. That kid he's one of the best players that's played at Long Beach and potentially one of the best players that's played in college men's volleyball. And to your point, Rob, the stuff that he is doing from a point score perspective, we've never seen it in the setter position. And it feels as if to a certain extent, he's reinventing that position in a lot of ways. He's offensively just an absolute monster. His ability to run the offense and locate the ball while being such an offensive threat is so unique. And so much of that is his size, but his size doesn't really tell the whole story because the dude, his ability to move, you compare a guy like Tread Rosenthal to Moni Nikolov. They're similar in size. They do not move the same way. Moni is definitely a league of his own in that sense. And so watching that guy play has actually been really, really fun. It's been fun for men's volleyball. It's been fun even for me to watch. And
even for you, because you're in the same conference.
Yeah, I mean, and is to get the opportunity to compete against them is really just going to be awesome for me as a coach and for our guys as a team. I'm just so excited. I'm excited as hell to compete against that guy. But yeah, I think that's been kind of the thing that's been so impressive. They haven't had incredible numbers, out of the supporting cast. But they're all really, really great. I feel like they're kind of just being overshadowed. He's got some great players around him, and that's why they're winning. And so Long Beach is really good. They're number one for a reason, and I don't think anyone has a lot of questions about it at this point in time.
All right, let's jump over to Dan.
Yeah, I got to watch this match. We can't say enough about Nikolov, but the environment at Long Beach and the crowd and just all the great things Alan's been doing with that program for volleyball on top of that, and just really exciting. It was great to see on TV, and like Hawks has got an uber talented team. I do think they're going to struggle on the receive piece, and you saw that in that match when I was watching that. And that'll be kind of the thing that I'm sure they're continuing to work on. But he's got some special physical talented guys on that group, whether it be Rowan or Cooper or whoever. And so it was a great. I'm looking for the rematch. It should be fantastic. Imagine they're playing it in Pauley, and I'd be curious to see if they can get the Pauley filled like Long Beach. Do you know what I mean? It was really cool to see that environment and everything.
Well, you got downtown LA on a Wednesday night. We'll see how that factors in. Jay's famous, stumble over some homeless, sit through some traffic, maybe a couple earthquakes, but you'll still get there.
Hey, I got to jump off, guys. Good luck on the weekend. But my player is PVB, just so you guys know.
There we go.
Don't let me be the first one that just takes my guy and grabs it. So
all right. That's a good call right there. Yeah, I wanted to add about the attendance at Long Beach. So it listed at just over 4,400. I guarantee you it was a lot more than that because there were people standing around the rail. And if you haven't been to the pyramid, there's obviously the four sides it forms, and then the rails all around the building. There are people standing over watching the match. So you didn't hear it from me. I'm just saying what I saw. So who are we at there? So Theo did it. We'll
Me,
Jack.
I'll just finish this off. I think really it came down to serving. And an interesting piece. Obviously, David didn't play, and David Decker filled in and did a great job offensively. But really, the presence from the end line, that David is probably his greatest strength, and what I'd argue really helped push UCLA over the edge. So win last season was him from the end line, to where Long Beach had 9 aces, 20 errors, and UCLA only 3 aces and 26 errors, which is a credit to Long Beach serve receive, and also just not having David in there also helps keep those ace numbers down, because he can blast some balls.
Yeah. With UCLA right now. Oh, go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm going to start a conspiracy. All you volley talkers out there, I expect some research done on this. When are we going to find out Men in Black style that Moni unzips his skin and is actually an alien playing in a human body? Or when are we going to find out his birth certificate and see that he is actually a 28-year-old male that has been playing professionally for 10 years? Obviously, those are not true. But here's my take. How sad is it that we're not going to see him for 4 years playing in this game? Imagine the astronomical numbers that kid could create. He would shatter record books. He's that good. And I mean, he's going to get love for this entire year. So I'm going to end on that one. I agree with Brad. It's all about first contacts, that match. It was all about Long Beach's serve versus UCLA's receive. And Long Beach won that battle. And I think that was the nature of the whole beast right there. So I'm excited to see the no-one on this Wednesday night, though, for sure.
Well, that night, the 3R offense of UCLA, that'd be Rowan, Rama, and Robinson. They still were pretty good. But in the end, I think Long Beach had way too much muscle, not only from the service line, which Nikolov was wowing the crowd, bombing some, pushing 80 miles per hour because they had their radar guns going in. The crowd was just all night long. But you cannot sleep on the other players. Soto Shipani's, he has one wicked serve, and you don't know what he's going to hit because he stands so far back. He'll hit a full spin, then hit a hybrid, then a paced hybrid, all standing from the same spot. So, guys will go back or step forward to try and overhand pass a soft hybrid serve, and he rips one with pace. So, there are definitely some players like Skylar Varga, who's, I don't want to say being overlooked right now, but offensively, he is putting in the numbers that's pushing him over the top, that makes it look so easy for Long Beach to win right now.
And Varga's passing too, as someone who played predominantly on the right last season, as him and Clark Godbold kind of split time with passing outsides, passing opposites. But his passing has been really holding up this season.
He's their best passer, which is pretty shocking to say with Siaponis being out there. Did you guys see that serving run that Moni went on where he quick served on the whistle?
Yep.
Scored on that, bombed one, and then went off speed and hit the 10-foot line?
Yeah. Yep. Just sick. It's defying the laws of physics sometimes. Let's go to some of our other matches that caught our eye. I'm going to go and throw them out there because I know we are running tight on time. And I know there's so many other things that you guys wanted to touch on. We'll go to Stanford's first win at Hawaii. They're out there for first win in Hawaii since 2013. Any thoughts on the Hawaii-Stanford series? Let's go with Jay, since he's the farthest from the islands.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it because obviously it was 4 o'clock in the morning when I was driving home. But kudos to Stanford. Winning in Hawaii is not easy. And I know Hawaii is a very good team. And to win out there against a good team is good for Stanford, or they seem to have found their rhythm right now. So kudos to them.
Yeah. Theo.
Yeah, I mean, Stanford's just proven again and again that they're the real deal. Young team, but they're putting together some good volleyball, and anytime you can beat Hawaii in Hawaii, it's pretty incredible. So hell of an accomplishment for that group.
Yeah. And Brad.
Teo Snui moving to the left side after spending some time on the right last season and managing it as a passer. And like we all knew, he could manage it just fine as an attacker, but he was the big difference maker to me.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in there a little something just because I always want to celebrate good sportsmanship. Luis Sakunoko, night one, blasts out of the bic, goes off of Moses Wagner, shoulder headshot. Rather than celebrate with his team, he runs immediately over and checks on him. Not just a wave under the net. He goes over to the other side.
I thought he hit the libero.
No, that was night two.
Oh.
He does this again on the bic on night two, but the shot to Evan Porter, the libero for Stanford, takes an even harder shot. And again, same thing. Doesn't go to his teammates. He goes and checks on Porter. It gives him a hug. And I mean, it was a solid blow where the trainer had to come out. But I mean, yeah, he's fun to watch. When I'm telling you, this kid, golden with a good sportsmanship. So Luis Sakunoko, you're my man. I'm digging your style of play and I love what you're doing for the game. You're so great for volleyball. So just wanted to add that in there because like I said, want to celebrate good sportsmanship. So let's jump over to the Harvard and Penn State because Penn State has a win on the board now. Go with Jay, home conference team.
Yeah, I think everybody was a little bit shocked. Well, I wouldn't say shocked maybe this year, but surprised that Harvard won in 3 on night one. Penn State is got a few new pieces and some key positions, but the response the next night, winning in 3 in their place, I think was appropriate. And again, just reiterates that the EIVA is pretty wide open this year. So everybody's got a chance, and that makes it fun. It may not be to the level of play that everybody's complaining about. Oh, the EIVA sucks compared to everybody else. We're a conference fighting just like everybody else. Sorry, we're not at Long Beach State level, everybody. Sorry, apologize. But they're fighting and it's fun. And the coaches, we're all excited, and there's opportunities each week to do something. And kudos to Harvard. That's a good win by them.
Yeah, go to Brad.
Yeah, I think it was pretty evenly matched throughout. Even the match Harvard won to the match Penn State won. It was not ever like, oh, this team is absolutely dominant now. I think it was just a lot of emotions and a lot of swings and really a lot of unforced errors, or not unforced errors, but a lot of attacking errors and service errors that led to that. There was no team that was really able to pull away and get on some stretches of 3 or 4 consistently throughout. So yeah, it was like we've been saying, the EIVA is wide open this year, and yeah, I think it's going to make for a really, really exciting EIVA regular season play, and then a ultra exciting postseason tournament for them.
Yeah, and Theo.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's been really surprised about Penn State, but I think there's something kind of nice in the sense that Penn State has been so great for so long that the expectation is that they're just going to be good. And to me, this just credits what they've been able to do and how long Penn State has been great. I don't know that Penn State is a bad team. I think that there's just a lot of really, really great volleyball teams. And Penn State's schedule has been really tough. And knowing that coaching staff and what they're doing, this won't be their only win of the year. They're going to find many more. And so it's going to be a long road for that group, but they're not bad.
Theo, is that a guarantee Penn State wins another match?
I guarantee they win another match.
Well, and let's not forget,
you heard it here first.
They've been on the road a lot.
A lot.
So when they get home and they get comfortable again, it'll be a different team.
Yep.
Definitely.
Final match of the top 20. We'll talk about the BYU UC Santa Barbara series. Let's go to Theo and start that one off.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I actually didn't get a chance to watch much of it. Saw some of the stats, and I don't know that it's all that surprising in terms of the results. I think part of me thought that Santa Barbara would at least get a set. For them to get swept twice was a little bit unique for sure. But we all know playing at BYU is a tough place to do it, and an incredibly tough place to get wins. I don't know, Jay said it at some point over the years we've been doing this, but their win percentage is like 94% or whatever it is. And so, Yeah, I think BYU is doing some great things, and it definitely shows the fact that they could beat a team like Santa Barbara twice and do it in the fashion that they did. I mean, that team's great. That was a great bounce back week for them.
Over to Jay.
I echoed the sentiment about being swept both nights. I would have expected a set or two, or maybe even a five-setter, because I thought Santa Barbara was the legit deal. Maybe they had an illness, maybe they weren't feeling 100%. I don't know what the case was, but I'm just going to comment on that. I'm surprised by the two-night sweep.
And then over to Brad.
Yeah, I mean, BYU pretty dominant throughout both and really in all phases of the game. Transition was kind of a wash, but yeah, you got BYU served in at 84%. Santa Barbara served in at 68.6%. So that alone is going to be a pretty huge hill to climb up for any team, let alone playing on the road up in Provo up there. And then BYU hitting over 400 in first ball offensively is a pretty smooth showing. And I think Santa Barbara, the one question I had watching bits and pieces where Bianchi didn't get to play much, and obviously that's been their guy, so it's going to be tough for them to pull off an upset and play consistently without him on the court based on what we've seen so far and what we know about him from last year. So just hoping he's all good or getting too good.
Well, stat line of the night on night 2, Keone Thim, 10 kills, 0 errors, 526. So someone got hot again. Actually, he's been hot all season. So because he also led on night 1 with 8 kills. So with that, let's go into our players of the week. Jay, that grin means you get to go first.
Yes. Oh,
well, actually, Dan went first already, but
I've got 3. And I'll tell you why in a second. My first one, everyone in the country is talking about Nikki Moore.
Were you going to say Nikki Sandlin?
Moni Nikolov. Everybody's talking about Moni Nikolov. You know who I'm going to give some love to? Skylar Varga. That kid is a role player the last year or two and is starting to come into his own and becoming a household name for that program. He played for Canada in the summertime. I saw him there and obviously knew about him from before. But I'm going to give Skylar Varga a little love. You've been doing a nice job, kid, and I want to give you a little love. Second one, Alessandro Negri from NJIT. The kid had 21 kills, 2 aces, and hit 441 against my guys. Fiery little Italian competitor. I like the guy. I like the moxie he's got with him. I'm giving NJIT a little love and Alessandro. Last one, Catherine, our bus driver, taking us home Saturday night with the storm barreling down, a trip that normally takes maybe 4 hours at best. Took about 6.5 to 7 hours for us to get home, but she was a trooper. She kept us slow and steady and got my team home safe. Catherine, we love you. Thanks for taking care of my boys.
Well, Jay, I can't make the graphic. I can't make the graphic. I don't have a picture of Catherine.
That's okay. She will. She'll hear from me later on. I'll give her the kudos.
Please get a headshot of Catherine. We need her in the graphic.
We'll try to get a headshot of Catherine. But I'm going to give kudos to any of the bus drivers all around the East Coast and Midwest that had to drive this weekend or on any weekend when there's snow. You guys are absolute lifesavers, and I want to share that with you guys, that we appreciate what you do for us.
Excellent. Let's go to Theo.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that obviously the donation dollars or the sponsorship dollars aren't coming in for Jay. There was no sponsored by, no.
Wait till the match of the week, my friend.
Okay.
So fast, my friend.
All right. Okay, well, for me, it was a guy that we haven't mentioned, I don't think yet, Tanashi, a guy that we mentioned quite a bit in years past. Tanashi against PFW when they squeaked out that win in 5. He hit 531, had 2 aces, 8 digs, 18 kills. Man, hell of a performance. So Tanashi's one. And then I'm going to go Louis. After Rob said he loves the sportsmanship, Louis Sakanoko, 14 kills, 345, in their win over Stanford in 5. So, yeah, those are my 2.
Awesome. Brad.
I'll go 2 as well. First time ever, no one's taken any of them, so we got our pick of the litter. I got Nate Flater, 52 assists against Dan. I was really hoping he'd still be on for this one, but over 4 sets, 52 assists and 15 digs. Pretty darn impressive. I think he had an ace or two to sprinkle in there. And then Teo Snui, again, really good at both nights out in Hawaii, but especially good night 2 when they ended up winning.
Yep. Okay. Good calls. And that brings us to what you're watching in week 7 here. And we'll start with, we'll go reverse order. Brad.
Ooh, okay. Obviously, UC Irvine USC is going to be really, really good, fun to watch. And then I think I got two kind of off the radar ones. I think Mount Olive, North Greenville will be a big one in terms of Conference Carolinas and how seeding ends up there. And then St. Francis, Penn State. I think St. Francis played a pretty tough out of season, preseason schedule leading into the IVA play. Penn State obviously has with the record they've seen. So seeing how that plays out for both those teams.
All
and
right.
I'll be nice and leave some for the other guys.
Let's go to Theo.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of good ones. The Battle of New Jersey, Princeton and NJIT.
The Battle of the Drums.
That's going to be a really good one. And then San Diego at Grand Canyon, baby. Oh, that's going to be a great one.
And fun note there, John Gurton.
What's
John
that?
Gurton, former assistant coach.
Former assistant coach
now
at San Diego.
Co-interim head coach with Brian.
And very used to head coaches leaving and him having to step up and fill some roles. So, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a fun one. And then I got a third one in here, Lindenwood, Ohio State. I think, and Dan kind of mentioned it in his matchup this week, but Lindenwood is a sneaky good team. And if they get in system, they're super fast and they can cause some serious problems. So that should be an interesting match as well.
All right, over to Jay.
I agree with that. Lindenwood, Ohio State. That's a good call there, Theo.
Brought to you by Billabong Wetsuits.
What?
Brought to you by Billabong Wetsuits.
I've got a few here. Little fun fact for all you people out there. Mount Olive is actually the same company, Mount Olive Pickles, just in case you didn't know. So little fun fact there. All right, I got a few here. Sponsored by the No Left Turn Association of America, NJIT versus Princeton. Little fun fact, you can't make left turns in New Jersey. Anywhere in New Jersey, you cannot make a left turn off a street. Weirdest thing ever in the world. Sponsored by Zog Sex Wax Surf Wax, Pepperdine, UC Santa Barbara. That's a great call right there. Sponsored by Primanti Brothers Sandwich Shop, Penn State, St. Francis. Two teams that I'd like to see battle right now because St. Francis, they run a really, really fast offense. And if they're on it, can be quite dangerous. And Penn State's still kind of finding their way. Sponsored by Marv Albert and his famous line, I'm going to do my best. Let's see that again. I want to see Long Beach, UCLA. And my last one, this is my favorite one, sponsored by Philippe's French Dip Sandwiches in LA, USC, UC Irvine. That is a match of the no-mos. Somebody ain't going to be undefeated, no-mo. And so I can't wait to see those matches.
Well, I'm going to drop a couple myself because Lewis Ball State for a Valentine's Day matchup. Ooh, could be no love share there, but great matchup with two good teams. And the other one, other two, Lindenwood, Ohio State, and Loyola McKendree. McKendree playing spoiler maker. Unfortunately, Dan was the receiving end this last week, but Loyola, arguably one of the best teams in the nation at 10-0, and McKendree coming in hot over the win after defeating Lewis. Now, with that, I know we are so long. Do we skip the hot mic moment? Because I know, Theo, there was something you wanted to follow up on.
Yeah, I'd say we don't skip it.
All right. So hot mic moment. We'll see where it goes. And I'll go ahead and if you're new, you start the hot mic moment. Basically, our coaching panel gets to talk on whatever they want to. And if they want to jabber back and forth, that's fine too, I've realized. But it's picked up a lot of steam here in the last few episodes. So it looks like Theo's going to be ready to go. So
I'm actually going to let these guys go first. I wasn't here last week.
Theo, go.
Okay. All right. So I wasn't here last week, and there was a little bit more discussion on the ESPN Plus Big Ten network piece. And it seems to me like it's a conversation, obviously not just in here, but it's a conversation that's being had on Instagram. I saw Rob and Joe McCourty talking about it on Instagram. And I think that we've kind of gotten to a place where we agree it's great that we have something, right? And that there's avenues for all of these matches to be watched. I think that that is absolutely part of it. But I think that there's got to be some strategy involved, and there's got to be some thought process in terms of how we get this game out and how we make this accessible. And I think one of the beautiful things about ESPN Plus, and the reason why I think it was so successful on the women's side and specifically successful for us last year, was because it partners with Disney Plus. And if you guys all know this, there is absolutely, parents are going to always be your sure shot base, right? And parents that have kids, parents that support their athletes are going to be your sure shot base. But it is such an easy transition. If you have Disney Plus, you have the package that gives you ESPN Plus. That is accessible to more people nationwide than Big Ten currently is. And so, not saying that Big Ten's a bad thing. I think it would be great if everybody was on one channel. And I think ESPN Plus is that avenue. I just wanted to put that out there because I wasn't able to in the last chat. But what I really wanted to talk about was give a shout out to the people who have been, I feel, incredibly instrumental this year in continuing to help grow the game, and specifically growing the game online, right? I feel like Rob has been absolutely a titan in this field, this area, his ability to do podcasts. He is the voice of men's volleyball and has been an absolute leader in pushing and growing this game. So I wanted to first shout you out, Rob, for doing such a good job over the years. There's been some other people who have started to help and follow your footsteps. Lee Feinswag in 900 Square Feet, who's doing a fantastic job. Soli Bear and Coley Kyman on their new podcast, Set the Pipe. JTM Volleyball, Joe McCourty, and what he's doing and his weekly updates about men's volleyball. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Mason Briggs, who is obviously playing overseas, but has made it his absolute mission to not forget about the game. And he's said it multiple times that he wants to make sure he does. This game gave him so much. He's had an opportunity to go pro, and has said, hey, I'm going to continue to do what I thought everybody else should have been doing for us, which is continue to push the game.
Let's give I agree with you, Theo. I didn't mean to cut you off. Let's give
I'm done. That was it.
Let's give the Worsley brothers a little love for their job. I forgot the name of their
Out of system.
They're doing a great job. Kevin Pratt, a club coach who's doing some new things. He's trying to get, some exposure out there. Let's not forget the OG though. Kevin Barnett and the Net Live, who back in the early 2000s got on this whole podcast thing and created an outlet that kind of started this whole thing. And Vinny Lopes, two guys that I think were the beginning pieces of all these things. But yeah, I agree with you, Theo. Those guys should absolutely get some love, and thanks for helping spread the love in this game. I have a hot take, unless somebody else wanted to continue on that subject.
I just wanted to say my great memories of the Net Live, because obviously Kevin gave me the authorization to take on College Volleyball Weekly's name when he retired from the game. But Richie Lamborn checking his text live on the video feed as we're talking about college volleyball.
I'm not going to lie to you. My favorite memories of being on the Net Live are when we would do the holiday booze show, where we would go there and on a random Monday morning, we would have shots and food and would get real loose real fast. Those holiday shows were a lot of fun. That's my favorite memory. All right, here's my hot take. To all the people out there that are, whenever we talk about new teams, and everybody keeps talking, oh, this new team and this team starting, and we get, a maybe not such a big name. To all the people that say, why doesn't Illinois? Why doesn't Nebraska? Why doesn't, so they're not starting a men's team anytime soon, especially in today's climate. So stop saying they should do it. They should do it. They're not going to, at least not for another 5 to 10 years. And with the way that we're going right now, the Big Ten should just get a couple of provisional people to go in there so they can create their own. Because if you're waiting for 2 more Big Ten teams to start men's programs, I'm going to retire by the time that happens. I don't see that happening anytime soon, especially in today's NCAA climate. We are in new, uncharted waters. We have no idea what's going on in the next 20 minutes because I believe some rules just changed that didn't happen yesterday.
And they're undocumented.
Yeah, that are undocumented, and we don't know what's going to happen on April 7th when the ruling comes down. We have no idea where programs are going to be. We have no idea where players are going to land, let alone talking to an AD about starting a brand new program. It's just not going to happen. Now, there are some that have already been in the works. A couple of them are teams that used to have men's programs, which I hope those ones pan out because it'd be awesome. But if you're talking about a big time university, big time program starting a men's team anytime soon, don't get your hopes up.
No. All right. There's Jay's hot mic moment. Brad, you have one?
No, I'm just sitting back, letting y'all cook and hang out.
All right. Well, I'm going to throw one in there because it's more funny than anything else. So I'm at the Long Beach State UCLA match at the Pyramid on Friday night. And I had a moment where Chris Geeter McGee was there, Matt Boyce, Charlie Brand, and Alan Knipe. I had to get a picture and I wanted to caption it Jurassic Park.
Well, you've got two of the heaviest hitters in terms of hecklers ever in Geeter and Boyce. Boyce is by far one of the best hecklers I've ever seen. So I can only imagine how good the conversation must have been.
It was just cool to see the community of all these great names in the game. And there were so many in the house but they all converged in one area of the bench. I had to take advantage of the moment. And then obviously seeing Miles Partain roll up in his number 18 jersey with his Clark Kent glasses on. I'm like, what? When did this happen? So, but with that concludes episode 252 of College Volleyball Weekly, our week 6 recap and week 7 preview. That is Theo Edwards of CSUN, Jay Hosick of George Mason, Brad Rostratter of UC San Diego, and dropping off early was Dan Friend of Lewis. Gentlemen, thank you again. You guys do incredible work for the game. And without you guys, I don't think that we'd have the traction we've been picking up. And they so appreciate your guys' insight and behind the scenes look and even the after dark type content that we drop every once in a while. But I appreciate you guys for all you do. And I look forward to catching you when I can in person. But Zoom ain't so bad either. So, gentlemen, best of luck to you this week.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.